So my name is Anna, and I chose to do my change project on CLABSI. That is central line associated bloodstream infections. What is CLABSI? Central line associated bloodstream infection is classified by the CDC as one of the following: at least 2 positive blood cultures growing commensal bacteria, or at least 1 culture growing pathogenic bacteria without any cultures with the same bacterium from another kind of sample within a 14-day period. Lastly, or it could be a lab-confirmed infection by differences in growth between catheter, pulled labs, and peripheral venipuncture pulled blood culture sample. The cost of CLABSI. So in Chopra et al. 2014, 966 PICs were included in a study, and 58% of those patients developed CLABSI. The median timeframe to infection for those patients were approximately 10 days. Also classified by the US, CLABSI is one of the 12th causes of death. The CDC estimates that 250,000 bloodstream infections occur annually. Within those, 80,000 are considered CLABSI. Associated with these costs to hospitals are ranging normally from over $7,000 to over $29,000, and that is per episode of infection. So per patient, per PIC line. These costs are normally allotted to increased lengths of stay within the hospital, increased need for surgery, increased need for specialized care or specialized equipment, especially if they end up in the ICU, increased risk for morbidity. So a study showed that within over 1,000 patients who had CLABSI, the first 48 hours after admission led to an increased rate of mortality that was 11%. Another cost to CLABSI is the patient, so obviously the morbidity. So the CLABSI bundle, a recent systemic review of a meta-analysis of CVC infection prevention. This study indicated that implementing care bundles and or checklists with prevention or with care of your central lines appears to yield stronger risk reductions and than interventions that did not contain a checklist for employees to follow. This being said, the CDC has a CLABSI bundle. This includes hand hygiene, daily CHG baths, scrubbing the access port with friction prior to access at least 30 seconds, only using sterilized devices for accessing the port, also immediately replacing wet, soiled, or dislodged dressings. Along that, routine dressing changes being implemented with aseptic technique using sterilized gloves or sterilized equipment. Normally, this is within 7 days. Most hospitals' policy. Also, this includes changing administration sets for continuous infusions per hospital policy. Certain infusions, such as if patients are receiving propofol, you are to change the entire set with every vial, or change lipids for TPN within a 72-hour timeframe. The quality variance includes aspects that potentially change the effectiveness of daily CHGs. So out of this entire care bundle, daily CHGs, I tend to see varying aspects within practice. This includes partial CHG baths, changing linens, gowns, socks after the fresh CHG, patients refusing CHG outright due to lack of education, also included with employee education, CHG wipes versus CHG baths. So CHG baths would include the soap with hand towels. Also supply availability. Along with supply availability, it includes teamwork and personnel available for those who may have devices attached to them, significant wound dressings or open wounds, any fractures. You need more personnel in order to do a full CHG bath. Included or side noted from that would be bed mobility. So bed mobility, including fractures, any recent surgeries, contraindications to patients being able to move certain limbs, cervical spine precautions. These require a higher personnel to do the CHG wipes and therefore availability of staff. And as stated before, amount of open wounds or significant complex dressings that you may need to watch out for. Root cause analysis, patient education for refusals, or employee education for what's needed, and making sure they're doing it appropriately, and going up chain of staff if they need help with certain CHGs. Supply availability, whether you have wipes versus washcloths available, pain medication for bed mobility where applicable. So patients who may have recent surgery, hip fracture, ORIFs, total knee replacements, being able to do a full CHG for those who may also have a PICC line. Charting availability and time. So this is included with the checklists. The charting does not include partial CHGs. It only includes many times just whether or not it's done. It no longer includes whether or not linens were changed, including the gown, socks, as well as the full bed after a fresh CHG, which I believe makes a huge difference. So all of those are not charted or checked off on a checklist. Those would be something to address. Solution and implementation. So this study would be done over a 6 to 8 month period. This would include changes in charting systems so that it would include the reasons for partial bed bath, reasons for what arms, limbs, body parts were actually done in the partial CHG. Were they able to change the entire linen sheets and gowns with the patient? Why or why not? So charting to include body parts, linen changes, and education for the patient with refusals. Analysis of this study would include retro review of patients who received partial CHG wipes and cross-analyzing those patients with those who had hospital-acquired infections, specifically bloodstream infections, those who had partial CHG wipes, causes for the partial CHG wipes, and patient length of stay. So cross-analyzing all of those with who ended up with bloodstream infections or CLABSI. The next steps from that would be to create interventions for weak areas. Are we having issues with bed mobility due to pain management for those who ended up post-surgery or due to open wounds, significant wounds? Teamwork versus increased personnel. Do we need more people required for that specific person's bed mobility to move them around, be able to change their linens, as well as get all parts of their body with the CHG bathing? Patient education for refusals, why we're doing this, why it's necessary, and benefits for them, as well as employee education so that they can educate the patient best possible way. And we can keep an open communication with our patients so that they are also in charge of their own care. Thanks so much for listening. These are my references.